So the Chiefs take on the Chargers again in primetime, and not only are the Chargers possibly playing without one of their best offensive weapons, but they have a weakness against the run on defense that the Chiefs might be able to exploit with a dynamic 1-2 punch. So I've got to talk about that, Eric Bieniemy now available once again, and more. But first, how about those? All right, first up, could the Chiefs find themselves bringing back a familiar face via a former coach here sooner rather than later? Here's what I'm getting at. Yesterday, it was announced that UCLA was parting ways with offensive coordinator Eric Bieniemy after just one season. Ross Dellenger of Yahoo Sports said UCLA is making a change at offensive coordinator. Eric Bieniemy is out. ESPN's College Football account, though, actually used the term fired, while Eric Bieniemy's agent said that the parting of ways was actually previously planned. Quote, he's still getting paid by the Commanders, and after interviewing for head coaching jobs last year, he wanted to stay active and busy. That's why he decided to help out for a year at UCLA rather than sitting out, but the plan for him was always to return to the NFL in 2025. Well, I think the only confusing thing to me about all that is he signed a 2-year contract with UCLA, so if the plan was always to leave after one season, why sign a multi-year deal? Either way, UCLA on paper did not have a great season with EB as their offensive coordinator. There were 134 football bowl subdivision teams, and they finished 117th in total offense, 126th in scoring, and were the 5th worst rushing attack in the nation. They ended up finishing the season 5-7, which was disappointing to many because the Bruins had a winning record the previous 3 seasons. But as you can see here, they switched from the Pac-12 conference to the Big Ten. So I would assume, I'm not a big college guy, but I would assume that also played a role. Plus some in defense of Eric Bieniemy said that the situation was set up to fail regardless of who the offensive coordinator ended up being. Regardless, Eric Bieniemy is beloved here in Kansas City by many fans. I mean, I literally see comments almost every day that people say Matt Nagy needs to be fired and Eric Bieniemy needs to be brought back in. Now, I seriously doubt Matt Nagy is going to get fired mid-season while the team is 11-1, but what if they brought Eric Bieniemy back in some sort of a consultant capacity here to finish out the season? Chase Daniel, a longtime former NFL QB who played for the Chiefs for a bit as well, said, you already know where EB is going. Nagy came back home, now EB back to KC as well. Obviously, that's just his opinion, but the reason why many want to see EB back is because they say the team was more disciplined with him because he was kind of the enforcer, and that complemented Andy Reid's more laid-back, friendly coaching style. Others point out that while EB was the OC from 2018 to 2022, the team averaged close to 30 points per game every single year, but the last 2 seasons since he left, they dropped to 21.8 points per game in 2023 and 24.1 points per game so far through 12 games this season. KC was also second in red zone touchdown percentage in 2022, EB's last year as the OC. Meanwhile, last year they dropped to 19th, and this year so far they are at 24th, which honestly is not great. I think it's all a rather complex issue that really isn't as simple as who the OC is, considering Andy Reid is kind of the offensive mind of the team. But again, the dip in points per game and red zone percentage is definitely a real thing. With all that being said though, my personal opinion is let's bring EB in right now as an assistant or a consultant or something. I mean, what is it really going to hurt? Then if Andy wants to bring him back next season, they can work all that out later down the road. I don't really care to have that conversation at this point in time when the Chiefs are focused on getting the 1 seed and getting a 3rd Super Bowl ring in a row. But that's where I want to get your thoughts on this situation. What would you like to see happen? Do you want EB to return, or nah, the Chiefs have won back-to-back Super Bowls even without him, so they are doing just fine as is. Next up, Travis Kelce officially got named as the Chiefs nominee for the Walter Payton NFL Man of the Year Award, which is the NFL's most prestigious honor that recognizes players who excel on the field and demonstrate a steadfast commitment to creating a positive impact beyond the game. Basically, every team nominates one player each year, and whoever gets the most votes between now and January 6th gets an additional $35,000 donation for the charity of their choice. So let's get involved here. Voting can be done on X via a comment or retweet that tags Kelce's account and has the hashtag WPMOY challenge, or by going to NFL.com/man of the year. Kelce's been doing great work in the KC area for a decade plus now through his 87 and running foundation, his partnership with Operation Breakthrough, among other things. So let's get these votes all the way up. I mean, the last time a Chiefs player has won this award was Brian Waters back in 2009. the year I graduated high school. So may the power of Chiefs Kingdom combined with the big-time power of the Swifties prevail this year for Travis Kelce. At least that's the hope, so go vote ASAP. And from here, I want to hone in on this game preview because the Chargers could be without their most important offensive weapon outside of Justin Herbert, and the Chiefs will be bolstering their offensive line, which should not only elevate the entire offense, but the Chiefs should also absolutely feast in the run game. But before I do, I wanted to share some of my favorite pick'ems with Underdog, the best and easiest place to play fantasy sports for this Sunday night football game against the Chargers. And since I just won a nice little three-legger from Monday Night Football, I'm going with 3 for this one as well. And before I share my picks, right now, any new signups using my code HBTC will get up to $1,000 in bonus cash plus a free Justin Herbert gimme pick to use in one of your pick'ems. But first up, Dicker the kicker has made at least 2 field goals in the last 7 of 8 games and is coming off back-to-back games with 3 field goals made. Combine that with the fact that the Chiefs defense is 10th best in the NFL in the red zone, and I'm hitting the higher on his 1.5 field goals made. Then I'm hitting the higher on Travis Kelce's 64.5 receiving yards. He somehow always finds a way against the Chargers. He had 89 receiving yards against them last game this year, but since 2020, he's had more than 64.5 receiving yards 6 out of the 7 times they've faced off. And finally, I'm spamming the lower on Justin Herbert's half of an interception. He's only thrown 1 all year. Meanwhile, the Chiefs defense only has 6 picks on the entire season. But if you don't like that Herbert interception pick, again, any new signup can just swap this one out for Herbert's gimme pick since he is the special for this week. And with that, I put a quick $25 down on these 3 picks for a chance to win up to 5.4x on my money. And to support the channel and either roll with these picks or mix them up with any upcoming football game this weekend, just click the link in the description below or use code HBTC to get that free gimme pick and up to $1,000 in bonus cash. Okay, so the 11-1 Chiefs face off for the second time against a division rival in the 8-4 Chargers at Arrowhead and are currently 4-point favorites, with home field advantage definitely playing a role here. The Chargers are honestly a pretty damn good team that just last year finished the season 5-12, but Jim Harbaugh already has that organization nearly doing a complete 180. They've won 5 of their last 6 games, only losing to the Ravens in a pretty close, exciting matchup, and they started the season 3-3, so they've really come a long ways. They're starting to find their identity and are looking pretty good. They are currently the 5th seed in the AFC playoff picture and are hoping to split one apiece with the Chiefs on Sunday Night Football. The first time these two teams faced each other, it was like week 4. LA was down both their left and right tackles. Justin Herbert had a banged up ankle, couldn't really move, and Derwin James was suspended. Well, this time, both of their tackles are back. Herbert is healthy and has 0 issues using his legs as needed and running all over the place at times. And they will also have Derwin James back for this game, a guy who just had the game-sealing interception last week against the Falcons. Now, the Chiefs did win that first matchup, 17-10, with the Chargers quickly going up 10-0 in the first quarter, thanks in part to a Carson Steele fumble and a Mahomes interception the very next series. After the first quarter, though, the Chargers never scored again the rest of the day. They had 6 punts, missed a 55-yard field goal, and turned the ball over on downs at the Chiefs' 3-yard line in the fourth quarter. Their lead running back, J.K. Dobbins, was held to a measly 2.3 yards per carry on 14 attempts, and they will not have him in this one. He was placed on IR recently with an MCL injury, which means Gus Edwards will be the leading back for the Chargers. LA didn't run the ball much last week, just 17 total carries, and Justin Herbert was just 16 for 23 and 147 yards on the entire day. It was a weird game, though, involving Kirk Cousins throwing 4 interceptions, so multiple short fields will do that to a team's overall stats. LA's top pass catcher, Ladd McConkey, had himself a day against the Falcons. He caught 9 passes for 117 yards, and way back in their Week 4 matchup, Ladd was also the top target. He caught 5 passes for 67 yards and a touchdown. The problem for the Chargers is Ladd left last week's game in the third quarter with a knee issue and never returned. He's also dealing with a shoulder issue, though he's been able to play through that. However, the knee is a different animal for a receiver that needs to be cutting and running routes. He's been limited at practice this week, and even if he does manage to play, he's not going to be 100% out there, which bodes well for the Chiefs and their semi-struggling secondary because Ladd is by far Herbert's favorite target. He's targeted McConkey 81 times, with the next guy on the list being tight end Will Dissly, who's been targeted 53 times. Now, if Ladd does not play, that's going to be a massive hit for LA and a deficit that might be too difficult for them to overcome on offense. Joshua Williams will most likely be the defensive back out there opposite Trent McDuffie, as he filled in for Najee Johnson early on in that Raiders game on Black Friday when Najee got pulled out of the game. Spags said Najee will still work in this week in certain packages, but he did make it seem like Joshua Williams will be the guy out there at the cornerback 2 spot. Something else I'm hoping to see is the continued improvement from the Chiefs' defensive line with the return of Charles Omenihu. He had the highest pressure win percentage on the line last week, and that's only going to help free up Chris Jones, George Karlaftis, among others. And believe it or not, Justin Herbert has actually been sacked the same amount of times as Patrick Mahomes, which has basically been a piss ton. Both have been brought down 32 times, which is tied for 7th most in the entire league. Herbert's been sacked 9 times in the last 2 games, while Mahomes has been sacked 10. So hopefully the D-line plus some strategic Spags blitzes can help them get to Herbert on some key downs in this one. Now, if we flip sides, the Chargers do have an absolutely elite defense, so that will certainly help if their offense struggles without Ladd or with a Ladd out there that is less than 100%. They currently have the #1 scoring defense, allowing just 15.7 points per game. They are second best on third downs, second best in the red zone, or tied for 6th in sacks with 36 on the year, and have 17 takeaways on the season, ranking well within the top half. And if you thought the Raiders gave the Chiefs a fit last week from a pass rush standpoint, the Chargers are going to be an even bigger problem. They have Khalil Mack, Tuli Tuipolatu, Bud Dupree, and Joey Bosa. Bud Dupree is dealing with a heel issue, but probably plays. And that's why I'm very grateful the Chiefs will have a new left tackle out there. Matt Derrick of Chiefs Digest reported today that Humphries will start on the left side, which is fantastic news. Andy Reid in his presser today was non-committal, but I have a feeling DJ Humphries does indeed start. I'm not expecting the world from him at first or anything like that, but all Casey needs to start out with, as far as Humphries is concerned, is average left tackle play. Wanye and Kingsley have definitely been below average to well below average at times, and I truly believe this will help the offense massively. Jawan Taylor is on the injury report this week with a knee issue, but he was a full go on Friday, so the right side should be fine as well, as long as he's not getting flagged out the wazoo. Something else to note about the first time these two teams played, which this was the game Rashee Rice literally got injured in at the beginning when Mahomes threw his INT. So you literally have to throw the game plan basically out the window with your wide receiver 1 lost due to injury. On top of that, D-Hop wasn't yet a Chief, and this was also the very first game Kareem Hunt played in after the team just lost Pacheco a couple weeks prior. Well, now D-Hop is very much up to speed for the most part in this offense, coming off of an incredible performance last week. 4 catches or so for 90 yards, also drew 2 DPI flags or caused 2 DPI flags to be thrown as well. Absolutely fantastic stuff. Then Kareem Hunt is obviously well-versed in the Chiefs offense, and Isaiah Pacheco is going to make things a perfect 1-2 combo. The Chargers defense is great, but they do give up the most yards per carry in the league to teams when they run with heavy tight end sets out there. So 2 or 3 tight ends, they give up the most yards per carry in the entire NFL, and the Chiefs have used 2 or more tight ends over 52% of the time this season, the only team doing this over 50% on the year. Now, let's actually park the car here for a second, because I feel like this is a pretty big deal. I got this from Mina Kimes' preview video of this game, by the way, about the Chargers' run defense. She says the Chargers' defense is dead last in yards per carry, 27th in success rate, and 31st in EPA per play when teams have more than 1 tight end out there on the field and run the ball. Well, hello, Kareem Hunt and Isaiah Pacheco, based on the fact that Kelce and Noah Gray are basically out there all the freaking time, and Pacheco just had a 34-yard run last week, the most explosive run play of the season for the Chiefs so far. That's why I do like their chances in the run game, which is something they definitely struggled with last week. So if you can get the run game going, Mahomes isn't going to have to drop back to throw the ball 46 times like he did last week. Good God. So run the damn ball, which will help open up the pass game. Travis Kelce has had at least 60 yards receiving in 5 of his last 6 games. Noah Gray has had 4 touchdowns and an average of 4 catches for roughly 50 yards a game over the last 3. Then don't forget, Worthy's longest catch of the year was a 54-yard strike of a touchdown against the Chargers in their first matchup. So please replicated deep ball in some way, shape, or form with Worthy. We are all starving for it.
We're practically starving here.
It's been 84 years.
There's plenty of talented players in LA's secondary, from Derwin James to Christian Fulton, and even the rookie Tarheeb still had 2 interceptions against the Falcons, including one that resulted in a 62-yard pick six in the third quarter. Mahomes started the year with INT galore, but since the D-Hop trade has thrown 13 touchdowns to only 3 interceptions in the last 6 games. So I'm not overly concerned here, but Mahomes does need to play a very clean game against this elite defense. If he can do that, I honestly like the Chiefs' odds of winning this game. They are at home, will, in theory, have elevated tackle play to help allow Mahomes a tad more time to throw the ball. They will also have the 1-2 punch combo of Hunt and Pacheco. Kelce always feasts against the Chargers, and if Ladd McConkey is limited out there, I think the Chargers are going to struggle a bit on offense with the return of a Minihue and the CEO of Sack Nation hunting Herbert down like a hyena. To be clear, though, Herbert is a great quarterback, close to top 5 in my opinion. He's only thrown 1 interception the entire year and has other targets out there that he will find, because if Bryce Young and Aiden O'Connell can do it, I assure you Justin Herbert will also be able to do it. In spite of that, I'm rolling with the Chiefs getting the W by a score of 21-17. And boy, oh boy, do I hope I am wrong. And it's a 10-plus point win that's not stressful all the way down to the wire. I just think this could very well be yet another one of those games. A nasty defensive slugfest with a hampered Chargers offense and a rising Chiefs offense that's going against an elite Chargers defense. If KC wants to win, they have to be better than 3 for 10 in the red zone. That's right. They've scored a touchdown just 30% of the time inside the 20 over the last 2 games, and that's something that has to change, in my opinion, on Sunday Night Football. One thing to watch in this one will be special teams play, because Matt Wright, the Chiefs' third kicker in basically a month after Butker and Spencer Schrader have been placed on IR, he will be kicking, but they also might have to have somebody else out there returning punts and some of the kickoffs, because Andy Reid shared today during his presser that Mecole Hardman's knee locked up on him prior to the team's on-field work at practice, and therefore he didn't practice today. He was getting evaluated at the time of Andy's presser, and so he wasn't sure at the time if Mecole will be able to play or not. If Mecole doesn't play, Worthy is an option to return punts, but I would think they elevate Montrell Washington from the practice squad and have him up and ready as the team's go-to punt returner. We won't know until Sunday about Hardman, but he really was the only notable player on the injury report other than Jawan Taylor. But again, Jawan Taylor should be good to go. With all that being said, let me know your thoughts on this matchup against the Chargers for Sunday Night Football, as well as your score predictions and who you think needs to ball out in order for the Chiefs to get away with a W. And until next time, let's go. Let's freaking go. How about those?